Last night was Survivor Series and for WWE, and I'll be the first to admit, Coach and Crew show is taking a little hiatus from WWE because the script writing just isn't there. And we're back because this was 25 years ago or 30 years ago. This was one of the main pay per views. Now it's a brand rivalry, which doesn't sell well with me. But Phil, actually, some of those matches were actually really good matches, even with the bad storylines leading up to it. Over,
Non-existent storylines leading up to it.
yeah, I'll get to some negatives, but overall, I was a little bit more impressed than what I was expecting to happen. How's that for a starting point? What about you?
Well, Survivor Series hasn't been a real big deal since they stopped. Shane was running SmackDown, Raw was being run by Stephanie, and they would invade each other's shows and everything else. When they stopped that, it's kind of lost its luster. I think the last good one was when you had Triple H lead NXT for takeovers inside both SmackDown and that I thought was excellent. But they haven't had a good one in what 3-4 years. And
Easily.
yeah, and I thought this one was uneven. I thought there were some great matches, and then I thought there were some real poor matches, and then there was something that was a Pizza Hut commercial that masqueraded as a match, or was it a match that masqueraded as a Pizza Hut commercial? I couldn't figure it out. But my highlight was the Becky Lynch Charlotte because I still don't know if everything over the past month was a work or not. I have no clue, and I still don't know if it was a work. So if it was a shoot, then incredible. If it was a work, it fooled me. Incredible. I don't know.
All right. If you'll take that one, then I'll take the men's traditional five-man Survivor Series, 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. The two negatives. One, the entrances took about 15 minutes, which I guess either given the hour or my attention span, after a while, I was just like, this entrance is just taking way too long. And then how Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre got eliminated. I wasn't too happy with the double count out. Other than that, that 5-on-5 match was, I think, my favorite match of the night. I like the Becky Lynch match. I agree with your storyline. Uh, I don't know how I feel about the dirty ending. If it's going to continue the storyline, then fine. But
I think the dirty ending sucked. If
yeah,
you truly needed a double count out, if you needed the Bobby Lashley Drew McIntyre double count out, it needed to be for the first match. They needed to have beat the hell out of each other outside the ring, and neither one of them had been able to move and crawl back in and had a double count out. I've seen AEW do it with their matches recently. You could easily do that, and that way you save both of them. I don't know why you had to end Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair as the dirty three count. I don't see it. I don't see why to do that.
I mean, even a cheap roll up pin is better than the
Uh,
dirty
I
pin.
don't. I don't know the cheap roll up pins, man. I would have rather seen Charlotte beat the hell out of Becky with a steel chair and get DQ'd than to see a cheap roll up pin or to see the
Well,
dirty pin.
all right, the steel chair actually ranks higher than the dirty pin or the cheap roll up. I'm okay with a cheap roll up as long as it's like a double reversal or triple reversal cheap roll up. I mean, if that's a wrestling move, then you can sell me on that. The left hand holding the rope, no, no. I'm not
I mean
buying.
that's but see, I gave that one an A minus because of the ending.
Me
I
too. Me
thought it was
too.
an A. I thought it was an A plus match except for the ending. I mean, Charlotte's moonsault off the top rope onto the floor, please. That's stupid great.
And the whole pay per view is a filler pay per view. It's like they don't have any storylines. They canceled the date December pay per view for the first time I think ever in WWE history. They've the whole pay per view is a filler pay per view, and so I was saying that it was a setup, and then the filler of the filler was a 25-man battle royal, which I will be the first to admit when I was a kid, my favorite type of match growing up was the Battle Royal because you got to see everybody. It was over the top rope. It was great
Two
back in.
thumbs up on that one. Yes, I
Yes,
agree.
but the concept of the Battle Royal has changed since we were kids. It just has. Now it's the mockery, and like you said, it's a Pizza Hut commercial. The best part of the Battle Royal, I forget who was on the bottom side, but AJ Styles was getting tug of war with almost in the middle trying to save AJ, and him getting like stretchered like the two horses going the opposite direction with strings attached to the guy. That was my favorite part of the battle royal was AJ getting stretched.
Do you realize how they're doing with AJ Styles now? He is slowly progressing and developing into a manager for Almost.
I've noticed that. I've noticed that.
And I'm not sure what I think about that because AJ Styles is one of my favorite performers. And even in his 40s, he's still an incredible performer. He can carry any match anytime. And to move him into a manager role now, I think is premature.
He's too, even at his age, is too young. Uh, we got a 10-second snippet of it, and then there was elimination or they cut scenes or something. But our two favorites, Dolph Ziggler locked up with AJ Styles. How good of a match could that have been right there for just a 3-minute segment, even if those two had battling it out in the Battle Royal?
I've told you the best match I have ever seen in ring was a house match in Atlanta, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, where The Miz went 1v1 with Dolph Ziggler in a cage match, in a house match. That was 30 minutes of pure great wrestling, period. And I haven't seen anything like it before or since.
All right, let's look. We haven't even gotten to the quote unquote main event. Not that it mattered, but we had Roman Reigns supporting the SmackDown Blue and the Raw champion, Big E. We all knew how the end result was going to happen. Was it a good match? Absolutely, but we all knew how the end result was going to happen.
Right.
And I'm disappointed that match even took place because we knew how the end result was going to happen.
Yes, and everything you say, I agree 100% on. I didn't even want. I like Big E. He's one of my favorite performers. He really is. I like everything he does. He is entertaining, and you could tell he gives it 100% out there. So I have all the respect in the world for Big E and what he does out there. And he is very much deserving of the Raw Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, this has really nothing to do with Big E.
Exactly. I had no desire to see this match whatsoever. I want to see Roman Reigns take on one of two guys. I want to see him take on either Drew McIntyre or Bobby Lashley. Anybody else, I don't care for. I don't care about. I want to see him take on one of those two guys. Period. End of story. I just having Big E do it, don't care whatsoever about that. I want to see Big E take on Seth Rollins.
You know what? I'll be fine with Big E versus Kevin Owens.
I'm fine with Kevin Owens taking on anybody. Kevin Owens makes a match.
So, but I see where you're going with that, and I agree. And so they're bragging about the 400 and some day consecutive streak. Initially, I thought this was going to be the setup for bringing in The Rock because it was WrestleMania 20 or Survivor Series 25 anniversary of The Rock's debut. I thought that was going to be the initial setup of that. We thought initially, a month or two ago, that The Rock would be in person and just the one where it's promoting, and that will start the buildup of the storyline for WrestleMania for
and considering the fact that the entire pay-per-view was a commercial for Red Notice.
Exactly. And that stupid egg, I mean, it's not stupid egg, but that stupid egg, who stole it? And I'm hoping The Rock didn't steal it.
I thought it was, I thought it was like, okay, you don't bring The Rock out. This is, the setup wasn't there.
No.
And I thought the matches, the in-ring work we started out with a great match in ring work with Lynch and Flair. We ended with some great ring work between Reigns and Big E. And then I thought the most complete match actually was the Usos versus Randy Orton and Riddle.
What a finisher!
Exactly.
What a finisher!
I mean, that I'm speechless on the moves put in. Everybody knows if they are fans of our show, how I am not a Riddle fan at all, period.
Well, neither one of us are.
And I laugh now at him, and I think Randy Orton just behaves to Riddle like I would. Like, you're an idiot. And Randy Orton treats him like that. So now I buy in on it. And having the Usos in there, which quite frankly might be one of the best tag teams of all time. They could compete with the great tag teams from the 80s and the 90s. And it was just a fantastic match. I thought it was complete, start to finish, a complete match. The ending was incredible. I have no complaints, anything that happened in that match.
That leads us to right now, Monday Night Raw is on. Neither one of us have it on at the moment. We'll catch up on it. So if you're beginning, what would be, I guess, your storyline to get you to Rumble, what would you, based off of last night's results, what would you do first and try the storyline you'd set up to get to Rumble?
Well, for Rumble, I'm going to want Rollins and Big E at Rumble. And, I hate to say this, but I would take the belt from Big E at Rumble and put it on Rollins and then set up Rollins for a true WrestleMania match for Raw. SmackDown, where I would go with it, you've got to bring Brock Lesnar back in, and you've got to have something to do with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns to try to get that done, over with, and together, that aspect of it. Royal Rumble, I know that's different brands with McIntyre and Bobby Lashley, but there's some unfinished business there, man. There's unfinished business there. Need to have it happen. The women's side, quite frankly, if it's not Becky Lynch, I mean, there are four great women. Bayley, the four horsewomen, Bayley, Becky, Banks, and Flair. That's it. I mean, they might be the four best women in the ring of all time, period, end of story. But none of these new ones, I'm not interested in any of them. I really aren't. And I know they keep jamming Bianca Belair down our throats. I didn't see the audience.
She can't do it.
I didn't see the audience get into that. Like me, I've been saying it for the past 2 years. I'd give her the Goldberg treatment. She needs a manager, Selena Vega or somebody to be her manager, and go in and give her 30-second squash matches every week. And just let her go through the entire roster for squash matches every week. Even if you have to bring in jobbers, it doesn't matter. She's a squash match person, and she might be the best athlete for the female side. But to me, she has no ring presence. I don't care. She's not over with me. It's just, I would just make her an unstoppable force. Then I would put the belt on her, let her carry it for a while, and then the unstoppable force gets beat by somebody else that's an uppercomer.
All right. So one thing that you mentioned, I think they're going to do. I think Big E's going to drop the belt at Rumble. And here's why. And I think you're right. I think it's going to be Seth Rollins. Now you got the power couple, both with their titles. And that's going to be a storyline. Back how they had Seth and Becky way back when. Well, they're bringing them back now, but not as faces anymore, but it's going to be as heels. I see that storyline starting post-Rumble.
I could see that happening too. I mean, it's easy. It's natural. So that means that Vince is going to get cute and not do it.
Yeah, and it's an easy storyline to write. It'll write itself.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering how they're going to write Charlotte off, because there's a lot of crap out there on social media where Charlotte and her fiance are really hammering WWE. So Vince is only going to take so much of that.
Yeah, and now that Daddy's gone as well, I think you're right. I think Charlotte's going to quietly or dramatically exit stage left, and I'm just not sure which one.
Yeah, I don't either, but I don't see Vince letting the competition get a hold of her because, like it or not, she's one of the best to ever step in the ring, and there's no doubt in that. No
Well,
doubting it, no arguing or anything.
all right, so now that we're on this tangent real quick, I honestly thought that Cena would have broken Ric Flair's record by now. So I'm a little surprised by that.
I think, well, okay, we've been saying this for what, 5 years now. As soon as Ric Flair's no longer on the planet or not with the company, Cena's going to break the record.
Well, he's now no longer with the company.
Right. And I think it's prime setup. I just think that Cena is booked in Hollywood and can't do a proper run for a title run. Yep. But I think as soon as he can free up 6 months, because I think if you have a WrestleMania, the SummerSlam run, have him take it at some WrestleMania, lose it at SummerSlam. I think that's a proper run for Cena and his 17th World Championship. I think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm any of the big traditional four, from Mania to SummerSlam, from SummerSlam to Survivor Series, possibly from Survivor Series to the Rumble, or from Rumble to Mania, would be a proper run for him.
You know, if they can't get The Rock for WrestleMania, I could actually see Cena, and I'm not predicting this at all, but I could see Cena coming in at WrestleMania and taking it all from Roman and running with it and having Roman get it back at SummerSlam.
Very well could be. And we're getting way far ahead now.
Yeah, that's true.
We got to just hope for no more cuts and some good storylines, and more of the good storylines than the cuts to come forward out of this.
Yeah, I've been very disappointed with the roster cuts for WWE. I've been disappointed with the product. SmackDown, the only thing that makes it great is Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns and the Usos. That makes the show great. Raw, there really isn't a reason to watch Raw, and I've stopped watching NXT, and NXT was my favorite show.
Mine too.
As soon as Triple H was done, I saw the quality go down. The in-ring work is non-existent. And then you've got a Steiner that you're pushing, and you're calling him Braun Breaker. Help me out with that. You've got a Steiner, and you're calling him Braun Breaker. No sense whatsoever.
Well, would you rather be known as T-Bar?
Okay, yeah, you got a point there.
That's another one I just can't fathom, and how that name hasn't changed back to Djokovic.
I know, and they got rid of Karrion Kross. They got rid of Keith Lee.
I heard rumors why they got to get rid of Karrion Kross, and that could be college football, Washington State head coach type of reasons.
Uh-huh. Well, they had ruined his character anyway that they had developed completely.
Exactly. So let's put an exclamation point or a period on this segment. Let's go back full circle to Survivor Series. I assume Becky Lynch was your favorite match. Give me an overall grade for the pay-per-view.
Overall grade's at A-. We still had two dogs in there. You had the Battle Royal, which was junk. And then the women's Survivor Series 5v5 wasn't any good. So it made it uneven, and it really pulled down the Uso match. It pulled down the rest of them that really was strong out there. And if anybody watched the kickoff match, why? You had the potential to build that up and have a great match because there's two great performers. And then you did that with it. That was just.
See, because of everything you just said, I cannot give it an A overall. You can sell me in the B category, but it's more like a C plus for me because you had at least two, if not 2.5 negatives pasted into that show that lasted until 11:35 p.m. Eastern time, which is a major factor for old folks like me.
Well, me too. I mean, literally, the women's match almost made me cut the thing off and say, I'll just catch it on Monday, the rest of it on Monday. because I just couldn't see watching a 35 or 40-minute long match that was junk, and it was junk. So I just thought that was so bad. And the Battle Royal had already just completely dumbfounded me.
If there was something attached to the winner gets a shot at the Intercontinental or the U.S. Championship. You know, the next
gets a contract like Money in the Bank or something.
Yes.
I mean, just something
attached to it, because there was a while where every match had to have a purpose. Why did that? And you know what? That made for great storylines. Jeff Hardy has to retire if he loses to this jobber. That's a great storyline. Good job, Vince. But now you stopped it mid-sentence.
Yeah, or we could have. I would even be okay to win the Pizza Hut trophy.
The Andre the Giant Memorial, the Survivor Series Battle Royal Trophy. You are the sole survivor. How cool is that? Go back into the old format when there was was it 91 when Hogan and Ultimate Warrior were both ramping up, and they had all the Survivors Series matches, and then they had the good guys back when there was such thing as good guys in the main event with Chico Santana, the Ultimate Warrior, and Hulk Hogan versus all the other survivors, where the Warlord was one of them. He was the first one out in an instant finisher by the Flying Burrito. Yes, I remember this. And took on Ted DiBiase and all of them, so that the two...
You watched it the next day on VHS.
Yes, I did. The very next... I actually had to plan to wait till Friday night when my parents went out, and that was my movie time video of the week. So,
yep.
But they had an Ultimate Survivor. It was something you worked towards. It built storylines up, and the teams had storyline build-ups. The Big Boss Man against Dusty Rhodes had a storyline build-up. It was great entertainment. It had script, it had drama, it had lead-in. There was no buy-ins to this pay-per-view. I can't give it, I have to give it what I give it.
I'll give WWE one of my better ideas. Hey, they could have had that one, had a battle royal with all tag teams. The winner, his tag team, gets a championship match. Choose which brand you're going up against at the next pay-per-view. It takes place on day one on New Year's Day in Atlanta. There you go. Boom. That gave it a purpose. That gives it a build-up. It gives you a month of storytelling, 5 weeks of storytelling, and it would have carried it. Nope, they can't even do that because there is zero creativity in creative writing there.
I mean, that WWE video game that I used to play all the time, I have some of the best storylines ever that only me versus the computer can implement, because I'm not good enough to play against anybody on the internet, because I'm not 12 years old anymore, and I suck at those games, but my storyline skills are still phenomenal.
There you go. But it's sad. It really is sad on how the slide is coming to WWE. Although I thought having AEW would really cause WWE to elevate their game.
And it hasn't.
And it hasn't. With the exception of Roman Reigns. I will say that is probably the best storyline arc for the last 18 months. Better than anything they've had since the 90s.
I don't disagree. During the DX and Stone Cold eras and all that kind of good stuff. But definitely coming out of post-COVID, that is the one storyline that they've gotten right.
They have. And at least they didn't destroy the Usos or anything else during that time period. Yeah, they had them battle it out. But at least they had common sense to put the belts on them and make the tag team division at SmackDown at least to mean something and have a faction. Because take a look, they had a faction in the Hurt Business. Imagine at Survivor Series if you would have had the Hurt Business versus the head of the table. Damn, that would have been good. It really would have been.
There you go. Storyline and Survivor Series would actually mean something. With that, if you liked any of our comments, make sure you comment in the comments below. Like and subscribe to our YouTube video. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. for Tantor and myself, this has been the Coach and Crew Show. We hope to see you shortly after day one.
And subscribe to us because, by next week, Vince could release me and Coach here. We could be gone. He'll fire us from the Coach and Crew Show.
Yeah, if he does that, that means he bought us out, and that means we're going to be rich.
I can handle that.